What in the Edward K. Scissorhands is going on out here, man? The Jets upset the Los Angeles Rams, but they won, but they really lost. And now the Jags are in position to land the number one pick, and we all know what that means. What in the hell is going on? Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie Tee? Welcome to the 124th installment of the Louie Tee Network Podcast. I, of course, am your set man, Louie Tee. Thank you for joining me. Lot to get to today. I do want to set the table here first and let you know what the programming will look like this week. It is Christmas week. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays to all of you out there. Thank you all the time, but I want to take this time to thank you yet again for all of your support. I'll probably do it once more at the end of the show, but I just want to take the time out to thank you guys for all that you do for the Louie Tee Network. Again, this platform doesn't exist and thrive the way that it does without you. So I wanted to take this time to thank you guys again from the bottom of my heart for all that you do, all the support, all the time that you take out of your busy schedules and your lives to chop it up with me, your man, Louie Tee. I can't begin to describe what that means to me. So I want to thank you guys for that. But that being said, it is Christmas week, and I don't have a bye week. This isn't Thanksgiving, so I'm not going to just be off the rest of the week. However, there will be no more podcasts for the remainder of this week. So this is the one and only podcast you will get this week. But I will be doing the Washington Football Nightly program from Monday to Thursday. There will not be a Friday installment of Washington Football Nightly, so we will try to condense everything into that Thursday episode in terms of the Panthers game, the injury report, and all of those things, and the prediction for the game. But Friday there is a game. I may be able to do a video. I may not be. It just depends on where I am, what I'm doing. More likely than not, I probably will not do a video for the Vikings and Saints game. But we will, I think, be back on Saturday. We got a triple header on Saturday, if I'm not mistaken. So I should be back for Saturday's action. A day full of games. So more likely than not, we'll be here live after each and every single one of those. Again, I will keep you posted if anything changes. But no podcast on Wednesday, no podcast on Friday, no Washington Football Nightly on Friday either. So just wanted to make mention of those changes. And again, Merry Christmas to you. That is Friday. Thursday is Christmas Eve. Hopefully you've gotten all of your Christmas shopping done. I don't know if you've wrapped your gifts yet. I haven't. I'm a slacker. I will try to get that done over the next 48 hours and get those presents under the tree. So hopefully all is well in your land. Let's talk about some of this football stuff, though, man, because yesterday was wild and crazy. We're going to go Slate Skatin here in a little bit. I want to talk about a lot of these games, man. There are a number of games that I had some massive takeaways from, leaving those games. So there are some games, and then there were some stinkers yesterday where you're like, okay, that was what I expected. But I do want to talk about those games. We'll talk about that here in a second. We'll get to the garbage time. It's truly garbage time today, okay? Steelers and Bengals, truly garbage time later on in the show as we preview the Monday night game. And before we do any of that, though, you know how we do this. All right, so let's go ahead and drop this gem on your melon. Let me drop this gem on your melon. Open your mind, let your conscience be free. Your mouth rolling with your man, Louie Tee E. Let me open you up. Get you thinking a little bit. So on this Gem Droppin Session, we're going to talk about the Jets and them getting a win. And I talked about how the pride of an NFL team is one that you can't measure. No one wants to go 0-16. No one wants to have that distinction. You go in NFL infamy, and it's not a reason you would like to. So I knew they were going to keep fighting. I didn't think they were going to win. I thought after the loss versus the Raiders last week, They were done. They fired Greg Williams, and I said, that was your opportunity, and you let it slip through your fingers. You're done. You're going to go 0-16. And I definitely didn't think they were going to beat the Rams of all teams. And, I'll give you the process that I went through watching that game. So, obviously, I didn't see the beginning of the game. I jump on late stages of the second quarter, and to my surprise, it's 13-3, and I'm like, wait a minute. What the hell is going on here? Like, did I miss something? Obviously, I missed something. I was doing the Washington game, overtime show, and so when I showed up to the party, it's 13-3, and I'm like, But, in my mind, I'm like, okay, whatever. Slow start for the Rams. They'll, halftime, Sean McVay will dig in their ass. They'll wake up. They'll come out, play inspired football, and they'll do those boys in the second half. They might not score another point in the game, and we may forget that the score was 13-3 at halftime. They may end up losing this game 30-13. That's what I was thinking in my mind. Like, okay, whatever. They're not going to win the game. My immediate first thought, though, was, shit. I switched my survivor pick from Baltimore to the Rams. What are they doing right now? That was my first thought. Was I switched my pick thinking, well, there's no way the Rams are going to allow the 0-13 Jets to beat them. So I'm just going to switch it. Gardner Minshew might have a little life in him, and they may come out and give Baltimore a scare. Didn't expect them to win, but let's go with the sure thing. And the sure thing is the 0-13 Jets not getting their first win against one of the best teams in the NFC and the best defense we've seen for much of the season. Man, was I wrong. And so they come out in the second half and they take it right down the field and they get in the end zone and it is 20-3. They go for it on fourth down, as a matter of fact. And I'm like, man, these boys are really trying to win. And I'm like, is this really happening right now? Seriously? And then, the next thing that came to my mind was all of these people that have been talking about tanking. And, that's a fan thing. And I can't stress that enough. And I've said this a million times because, a lot of people always go immediately to tanking when a result doesn't go the way that they think it should. Oh, that team's tanking. And I'm like, that's a fan thing. That's a you and me thing. That's not a player or organizational thing. Sure, the organization would prefer if they had the number one pick, but they're not out to get the number one pick. You never go into a season saying, well, we're probably going to stink this year. Hopefully we end up with the number one pick. That's not the mindset of an organization. You go in and you try to win as many games as possible. And if you don't throughout that process and you just so happen to end up with the number one pick in the draft, so be it. But you're never shooting for that. It's, that audio from Mike Tomlin talking to Chase Young. I think it's priceless audio because that's the mindset of every coach, staff member, and organization around the NFL. Is that I never hope I lose enough games to draft a guy like you. And he was talking to Chase Young. He said, you got to lose a lot of games. A hell of a lot of games to get a guy like you. I hope I never lose enough games to get a guy that looks like you. So that's the mindset. These players aren't thinking about tanking. Again, whether you get Trevor Lawrence or not, or you get the number one pick, the guy that's perceived to be the best in college football, that doesn't matter one iota to these players. They could care less. Half of these guys won't even be around to reap the benefits of what getting Trevor Lawrence might mean for the Jets organization. They could care less. These players don't give a damn about that. The coaching staff, if you lose enough games to get the number one pick, you might not be around to take advantage of having the number one pick. There are jobs on the line and at stake. So when you hear the phrase tanking, that's a fan-driven and created narrative. Organizations, staffs, and players want no parts of the number one overall pick, want no parts of tanking, want no parts of being 0-16 or 1-15. They want no parts of that stuff. So, when I heard last week, oh my God, Greg Williams, the Jets are tanking. No way they were tanking. He thought he was doing the right thing by his team. It was the wrong thing. You don't do that. But he thought, and I gave you context last week, so I don't have to go back over that again. But I didn't think there was any way in hell they were going to win this game. And yet I'm sitting there and it's 20-3 now. And then the Rams get on their horse and they score 14 unanswered points. And now this is a ball game at 20-17. And I'm thinking, okay, here we go. They're going to win this game. They're going to come back and they're going to win this football game. And they score a touchdown to take the lead through the Rams. And I'm like, there it is. They got him. And then it's called back for a penalty. And I said, oh my God, you got to be kidding me. So then they ultimately have to settle for a field goal. And I'm thinking, okay, they're gonna win this game. They're gonna win this game, no problems. They're gonna win the game. And then the Jets go back down the field, get another field goal, and they take the lead. And I'm like, well, still enough time for the Rams to go down and get a touchdown. They're gonna still win the game. They get stopped. The Rams punt the football. The Jets get it, and they don't give it back to the Rams. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. They just won this game. Seriously. Couldn't believe it. And in one fell swoop, they go from Trevor Lawrence. And I just told you last week that he was sitting down talking with Dan Patrick about how, he was ready for the challenge of being a New York Jet, if that's what, took place. And obviously that was the likely scenario because no one envisioned the Jets winning a game this season. And so he was talking about how, he was ready for the challenge. He's a winner and he's looking forward to, trying to change the culture. And now he's slated to go to Jacksonville. Unbelievable. And the Jaguars haven't won since week 1. They're probably not going to win another game. And you're saying to yourself, as a fan, if you're a Jets fan, you're pissed. But there's so many layers to this thing. Now, season's not over. Jacksonville could win a game. You think they're going to just lose out now just because they've got control of the number 1 pick? You're sadly mistaken. If they get a chance to win a game, they're going to win it. And they'll give that number 1 pick right back to the Jets. So it's not over yet. But more likely than not, both of those teams have won their last games of the season. And so if it ends the way that it is now, the Jets would be number 2 and the Jags will be picking first. And we all know that would mean Trevor Lawrence would be a Jacksonville Jaguar. I can't think of a worse place for him to go. Now, when I say that, I'm not talking about from a talent standpoint. I think there are talented football players on that Jacksonville Jaguars roster. I'm talking about from a market standpoint. I can't think of a worse franchise for him to go to than Jacksonville. No one's interested in Jacksonville Jaguars football. People down there are more interested in SEC football than they are Jacksonville Jaguars football. I couldn't think of a worse market for him to be in than Jacksonville. It's funny. Everyone was talking shit about the Jets. It's still a New York market. It's the perfect place for a guy like Trevor Lawrence to go. It's hard to sell somebody on, hey, man, got some Jacksonville Jaguar tickets, man. Hottest ticket in town. Nobody gives a shit about the Jacksonville Jaguars. Hard to get people excited about the Jaguars. You put them on Monday night, Thursday night, or Sunday night. It's hard to get people excited about Jacksonville Jaguars football. It's not the market you would like a guy like that in, but that's not the point, right? Here's the interesting thing with all of this. Now the Jets have a true dilemma on their hands. Because with the number 1 overall pick, there is no doubt that the selection is Trevor Lawrence. It is just, unless you truly believe in Sam Darnold, and the next guy that you bring in as head coach, because I think Adam Gase is fired, and I think Joe Douglas is going to get to hire his own guy, and the next guy that you bring in there is a head coach that says, no. I loved Darnold coming out of USC. I think that this guy was poorly coached, but I think I can get the most out of him. Let's just roll with Sam Darnold and let's try to, accumulate as many picks as we can by trading the number 1 pick overall or whatever the case may be. Unless that was the thought process with the next head coach, which I highly doubt that you're going to pass up on Trevor Lawrence. You were going to move on from Sam Darnold with the number 1 overall pick. Draft Trevor Lawrence and start anew. Now that seems to be taken off of your plate. And again, it's not over yet. The Jets could ultimately come back and have the number 1 pick because the Jaguars won a game. But let's just go with the assumption that both teams finish out the season at 1-15 and the Jags remain the number 1 overall pick team. The Jets sit at 2. What do you do? What if you don't love any other quarterback but Trevor Lawrence? Do you take a different position that you feel like can help this team immediately at number 2? Do you trade the number 2 pick for a team that's thirsty to come up and accumulate more picks to help build around Sam Darnold? Or do you take another quarterback and still trade Sam Darnold? Now this is a real question that you ask, because before there was no question. You take Trevor Lawrence. Even if you love Sam Darnold, you take Trevor Lawrence and you just figure it out. Now that that's off the board and no longer an option, what do the Jets do? Because I don't think Sam Darnold is broken. I think he is a very fixable commodity. I don't think he's a guy that you just say, damaged goods, can't do anything with him. If you get the right guy in there and you get the right talent around him, Sam Darnold, I think, can win you football games in this league. So what do the Jets do? It's a fascinating development. One that I'm going to be watching very closely this offseason. If they trade Sam Darnold, and more likely than not, a trade of Sam Darnold wouldn't take place until draft night or somewhere around there. So I don't think you're going to see Sam Darnold moved in April, early April or even in March, right around free agency time. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think you see Sam Darnold moved on draft night, if he's going to be moved, because you got to get the guy first before you trade away Sam Darnold. You got to know that, okay, without a doubt, I'm getting this guy. Which, if you're at number 1 or number 2, you're going to get the guy you want more likely than not. Obviously, if you're number 1, you get the guy that you want because you're picking first. But if you're number 2, and let's say you got a list of 3 guys that you really love, you're going to get one of them at number 2. So it's a crazy situation. It's not over yet. It's still a developing story. However, I think now the Jets have an interesting decision to make, and I'm anxious to see what they do, because, again, I don't think Sam Darnold is broken or is damaged goods. I think he's a guy that you can win with in this league. You just need better coaching. And so Joe Douglas, I thought he did a quality job of selecting talent last year in his first draft as Jets GM. He's going to have a slew of resources in front of him this year, and I'd be really interested to see what he decides to do. Does he regroup after losing the number 1 pick and say to himself, maybe we can get a haul for number 2, and I can really do like the Miami Dolphins and fast track this rebuild right around Sam Darnold. Don't have to do anything drastic. Don't have to look for another quarterback. Rebuild this thing around Sam Darnold. Remake and reshape this roster and this franchise around Sam Darnold and go forward with that? Or does he just say, you know what? I want a fresh, clean start. I want a fresh, blank canvas, clean slate. I want to wash my hands of anything that had to do with this old regime. I don't want their quarterback. I don't want their coach. I want my own guys in here. That's more of a realistic possibility than him just saying we're going to build around Sam Darnold, but that's more of a possibility than it was 24 hours ago when the Jets were holding the number 1 pick in the draft and were a 0-13 team. So I find this to be really fascinating stuff. Anyway, I digress. Let's move on and go slate skating. Put your skates on. We're about to go around the league. I do have a super chat, so I do want to read this super chat real quick before we move on. And this super chat is from my guy, Emperor Meech. Thank you for the super chat, Emperor Meech. Greatly appreciate you, who writes, I heard you and the Washington football team clown base talking about being better than us last night. Every time we see y'all, it's a free dub. So until you beat us, zip it. You bums can't beat Daniel Jones. There's not much for me to say on that subject matter, because as you're and I would love to play you guys 10 more times this year, because I feel like if we played you 10 times, we'd beat you 10 times. But again, I can't make that assertion. I can't say that out of my mouth, because the last 4 times we've played Daniel Jones, he's beat us all 4 times. So like you said, until we beat Daniel Jones, put a sock in it, right? But I know what my eyes see. And every time we've played you, we've spotted you turnovers and mistakes. And I know you don't want to hear this, and you shouldn't want to hear this. It's a part of the game. But I'm just telling you, we spotted you 20 points the last time. We turned it over 5 times in the game. 5 times, and you beat us by 3 points. We turned it over 7 times in 2 games versus you this year. 7 times. You turned it over once, and you beat us by a combined 4 points. Okay? 4 points. So I'm telling you, we're better than you. Our record is going to prove it at the end of the season. And I don't want to hear any excuses about this, that, because we're playing with our 3rd quarterback of the season right now. And we were on the verge of having to play a 4th guy if anything would have happened to Dwayne yesterday. So I don't want to hear the excuses about injuries or any of that stuff, because everybody's dealing with that stuff. So I hear you. I cannot disagree with your take, because you're right. We haven't beat Daniel Jones yet. Okay? But I know what my eyes see, and you know what your eyes see. Okay? Your offense is trifling. Your receiver core is a joke. And honestly speaking, I'm not that enamored with your quarterback position. I'm not enamored with my quarterback position. But you don't have a pass rush. Your defense is actually good. I'm not going to sit here and rag on your defense. I love Jabril Peppers. He's a much better pro than I thought he would ever turn into. And he's a stud. I love Jabril Peppers. I think that the signing of Blake Martinez was huge for you. You did a lot of good things in free agency, but there's still a lot of holes. Just like there are a lot of holes on my roster, there's a lot of holes on your roster. At the end of the day, I look at my team, and I like my team better than I like your team. And this is not just me being biased, because after you beat Seattle, I told everybody, because I didn't think we were going to beat the Steelers the next day. I said, this is the Giants division, and they're the best team in the division. And then we went and we did something I didn't think we were going to do, which was beat the Pittsburgh Steelers. And now I feel differently. And I'm allowed to change my mind after I get more information. And so I have enough information. Trust me, I would love to play you again. I think every Washington fan wants to play the Giants again. We're not going to get that opportunity. We would love to play you one more time, because we know what we're capable of. And honestly, it doesn't matter what quarterback we put in the game against y'all the next time. It could be Dwayne. It could be Alex. I would prefer it to be Alex, but it could be Dwayne, Alex, Kyle Allen. It wouldn't matter. We would beat you guys. But I can't, again, definitively, I can't say that, because we still haven't beat you. I just can't wait till next year. It feels like the Eagles from last year, when I was like, man, we could beat them. And we had lost to the Eagles like 5 or 6 times straight. And I was like, week 1, they put the Eagles on the schedule. I said, we dusting these fools. They're due. I hope they give us y'all week 1 so we can dust y'all and get that over with. Anyway, thank you for the super chat, Emperor Meech. Let's go Slate Skatin, man. So we've already knocked down 3 of the games on the slate. Thursday night football, Chargers Raiders, thrilling overtime game. Broncos Bills beat down. Bills clinch a playoff berth. Now looking to, clinch the AFC East for the first time since 1995. Now looking to see if they can zero in on the number 2 seed. And then Panthers win that football game, remain the number 1 seed. All they have to do now is win in week 16, and they will be the number 1 seed in the NFC playoffs. So let's get to Sunday's action, and we start in Atlanta with the Falcons and Buccaneers. This game did not go the way that I thought, but I knew that the Falcons were going to put up a fight. But this game at one point was 17-0 at halftime. The Buccaneers were being thoroughly dominated, and I was not sure if they were going to climb out of that hole. But then I said, you know who this is, though, right? It's the Atlanta Falcons. So what do you think is going to happen here? And, you know, all the jokes, I hear your jokes, okay? I hear your jokes. All the jokes on Twitter started with Brady and the Falcons, and you knew where that was going to go. They were down 24-7 at one point in the second half of this game, and then Brady unleashed holy hell on these Falcons and capped it off with an Antonio Brown, 41-yard touchdown or whatever it was, and that was the touchdown that gave them the lead and ultimately was the game-winning touchdown as they win this game 31-27. There was an outside shot at Raheem Morris holding on to this job. And there were some games in there that they should have won. The Chargers game, the Lions game, hell, this game comes to mind. But they're 4-10. I don't think Raheem Morris, even if he deserves an opportunity, is going to get this job. They needed to win more games than this. And this was another one of those opportunities where you say, we just don't get it. If you're a Falcons fan, if you're part of the organization, we just don't get it. We just don't know how to win. We don't know how to hold on to games. And so something will have to be done. I can tell you this, Calvin Ridley is a stud. There was no Julio Jones in this game, and Calvin Ridley continues to show that he could be a number one. He could carry the load for someone if need be. 10 catches, 163 yards, and a touchdown in this game for Calvin Ridley. He just continues to impress whether Julio is in the lineup or not. On the Bucs side of things, that defense came alive in the second half when they needed them to. They got after Matt Ryan, who was shredding them in the first 3 quarters of this game, but really in the fourth quarter, they stepped up, they harassed him, they pressured him. They got some big sacks and some huge spots, and really gave themselves a chance to come back and win this game, which they ultimately did. Tom Brady woke up. I still think he's off. There's some missed throws in there that you go, hey, look, you want to beat good teams, you can't miss those types of throws. However, 31 of 45 for 390. And 2 touchdowns and no interceptions. I don't think anybody in Tampa Bay is going to complain about that stat line, as he was able to rally the troops on the road and get a win. And this was, I think, the toughest game remaining on the schedule. Let's take a look at Tampa's schedule real quick. Lions and Falcons one more time. Yeah, that was the toughest one left on the schedule because that was on the road against the Falcons. And it's family business. I don't really care what the records are. They were going to give them a run for their money. But at the end of the day, the Buccaneers are the better team, and they ultimately proved that in this game, getting it done 31-27. There's so many weapons on this Buccaneers offense. That's the thing that's crazy. It's just the weaponry that Brady has at his dispense and at his disposal. Unbelievable how they don't score 30 every game and how they're not more dynamic and explosive. But this Falcons team gave it up. I'm worried about these Buccaneers. I'm just going to tell you right now. I'm worried about them come postseason time. They could easily be one and done. They could easily make it to the Super Bowl. They're one of the most polarizing teams in the NFC side of the bracket because on one hand, they're capable of getting bounced one and done style. And then on the other hand, they're capable of being the first team in NFL history to play a home game in the Super Bowl. It could go either way with these guys. I don't think they're going to make it to the Super Bowl. I don't think they're good enough. I don't think they're consistent enough. But man, when they get it revved up offensively, they can score in the blink of an eye. This thing was 24 to 7, and by the end of the third quarter, it was 24 to 21. They were right back in this game, just like that. 1 quarter. That's all they needed. 3 touchdowns, just like that. So this team. They're polarizing, man. I tell you, I don't believe in them, but they're scary. If they get it going defensively, they're scary because the offense we know can be dynamic and explosive. They're 9-5, and with the loss by the Rams, they're now 1 game out of being the 5th seed in the NFC. Which is what everyone's coveting right now is that 5th seed because they think it's going to be a pushover playing whomever wins the NFC East. But the Rams losing puts both of those teams at 9-5, and the Rams have Seattle next week, and that's for the division. And if the Rams lose that game and drop to 9-6, The Bucs are winning out. They're going to get to 11-5. Now, remember, the Rams beat the Bucs head-to-head, so if both teams finish 11-5 or 10-6, then the Rams would get the nod, and they'd be the 5 seed, and the Buccaneers would be the 6 seed. But right now, more likely than not, the Rams are probably going to lose once more, if I had to guess. Whether it's Seattle next week or the Cardinals the week after that. So I think Tampa Bay may end up with the 5 seed. And that's not a bad place to be if you're the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'd much rather play the 5th seed or the 4th seed than the 3 seed in the NFC. I'm not saying. I'm just saying. Tampa Bay 9-5. Falcons 4-10. Cowboys 49ers. Really disappointed in the San Francisco 49ers. This season obviously hasn't gone the way that they had intended, but the turnovers are the story for them. The turnovers cost them the game last week against Washington. 2 defensive touchdowns given up against Washington last week. 3 turnovers total in that football game. This week, 4 turnovers for the San Francisco 49ers. Big time turnovers that really changed the tide of this game. They fell down early in this ball game, 17-7, and they were being thoroughly dominated. And they got this thing within, matter of fact, this game was tied up at 24 at one point, and then the turnovers just started raining down for this 49ers team. I thought they were going to win the game. When they tied this thing up at 17, I said, okay, here they come. They're gonna beat this Cowboys football team. And then the Cowboys took the lead 24, had a nice drive, took the lead 24-17. Then they came back and got the touchdown and tied it up at 24. And I'm thinking they're still going to win this game. And then, like I said, the turnovers just started raining down. And they just couldn't get out of their own way. They kicked an onside kick. CeeDee Lamb scoops that and runs it for a touchdown. And this thing kind of got out of control. The 41-33 score is misleading. They throw a Hail Mary at the end of the game, and it's caught for a touchdown. But, the 49ers, really disappointing. The Cowboys aren't supposed to be scoring 40 anything on anybody. To put a 40 burger up is embarrassing if you're San Francisco, allowing this Cowboys team, who's now 5-9 and not dead in the NFC East. They're going to need some help. But to allow them to put up 41, you should be ashamed of yourself. And so, that Super Bowl hangover, that losing in the Super Bowl, I think that's a real thing now. We got to start acknowledging this as a real thing, because I think the last team that was good the next year, I guess it would be, I guess the Patriots when they lost to Philadelphia. I mean, the Rams weren't terrible in 18 after they lost in 19, but they didn't make the playoffs. So I guess the Patriots would be the only example, but they haven't been back to the Super Bowl since they lost to the... Wait, what am I talking about? They didn't lose that Super Bowl. They didn't lose the Super Bowl. They lost to Philadelphia. Yeah, I'm not tripping. They went back to the Super Bowl the next year. So never mind. I guess that's... I think there's a new thing coming now where we've seen it since 18. That next year, the team that made it to the Super Bowl and lost isn't playing well. And I think it is a thing. Like, you have to take New England out of the equation. Like, they were the exception to the rule for everything in this league. So that's a real thing, because this 49ers team, and injuries obviously have told the story of their season. But even 2 weeks ago, after they beat the Rams, we sat here and said, hey, don't count out San Francisco. 2 weeks later, they stink. Big game for the Cowboys, though. I thought that, what's crazy is when Ezekiel Elliott's out of the lineup and they give, more opportunities to Tony Pollard. This offense just seems to be better when Pollard gets more opportunities. I think about the Minnesota game. I think about this game, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm not saying Ezekiel Elliott is a problem and you shouldn't play him, but he may be a better fit for what they want to do offensively. And he's been a stud, man. He had a touchdown run in this game where he breaks like 3 tackles and he somehow stays on his feet. And you're like, he's playing with more confidence than Ezekiel Elliott. I'll just say that. Zeke with the fumbles this year hasn't been himself. Tony Pollard might be a better fit for what, Mike McCarthy's offense is. But It's hard for me to fix my lips to say that because Zeke is such a force when he's right. So this was a really good game for the Dallas Cowboys, but the turnovers really aided them. If they don't get and they haven't gotten turnovers this season, which is crazy to see the last 2 weeks against two bad opponents turn it over a ton and put the Cowboys in a position to score. I think they scored 34 last week and now 41. Like, this Cowboys team shouldn't be scoring over 30. And here they are 2 straight weeks with massive turnovers forced. And now they sit at 5-9 and just 1 game back in the NFC East. But obviously they have to win out because Washington owns the season series over them. So they cannot finish tied with Washington. But if you're Dallas, you went from, a near mutiny 2 weeks ago after getting destroyed and throttled on Thursday Night Football, or when was it? Was that a Wednesday game or a Thursday game? Whatever the hell it was. I think it was a Thursday night game or Tuesday, whenever the hell that game was played. I lose track of these things these days. I think it was a Tuesday game. You go from getting throttled then and having a near mutiny to 2 big wins and Chris Collinsworth on Sunday Night Football saying, I don't know, I guess the Cowboys are the best team in the NFC East. They've won 2 in a row. Shut up. Anyway, both teams leave the game at 5-9, and the Cowboys are not dead. They are not dead. They're still not a good football team. Titans, Lions. This one went exactly the way that I thought it would go. Titans are now 10-4, remain atop the AFC South, tied with the Indianapolis Colts. Derrick Henry still making a hard charge at 2,000 yards rushing. I told you, not enough people are on that whole story about him potentially cracking 2,000 yards. But here we are, 24 more carries, 147 more yards. He's going to have a legitimate shot. He's going to need a big one in one of these final 2 games and then a modest performance. But he's fully capable. If that Green Bay game this upcoming week doesn't get out of hand early from an offensive standpoint, and the Titans are able to stick with their game plan, which is running Henry and having play action fake off of that, he could have another chance because you can run it against that Packers defense. Tannehill was exceptional in this game. He started 7 of 8 for 113 yards. He would ultimately finish 21 of 27 for 273 and 3 touchdowns, including a beautiful touchdown bomb to Corey Davis, who had a whale of a ball game himself, 4 catches, 110 yards, and a touchdown. Like I said, the Titans have to re-sign him in the offseason. If he doesn't, he will have a bunch of suitors lined up for his services this offseason as a free agent. Meanwhile, Matthew Stafford must be given credit for showing up and doing what it is we've gotten accustomed to seeing him do. Playing injured and playing well injured. This guy showed up with bruised ribs. And look, they got nothing to play for. They're 5-9 now. They were 5-8 coming into this game and technically weren't eliminated from postseason contention. But at 5-8, you weren't going anywhere if you're Detroit. And they knew that, and he still didn't care. He came out and gave his team a chance. 22 of 32 for 252 and a touchdown. You got to give Matthew Stafford some credit. And he's an interesting name. We talked about him on the last episode of this pod as a guy that could help a team as a veteran quarterback if the Lions decided to move on from him. That's the kind of effort that you know you're going to get from Stafford. A tough guy that's going to play through whatever and help his team win. And he gave a really big effort in this game, but they were outclassed. This Tennessee Titans team is just better than them. This game was weird, had a safety in it. Tannehill gets sacked in the end zone for a safety, but when it was all said and done, they fought, they hung tough. You thought they were going to run away and hide with this game. At one point, it was like 24-7, and then they scratched and clawed, and they got it to 24-15 before half. Then it was 24-18, and you're like, wait a minute. This thing's getting a little too close for comfort, and then the Titans ran away in the fourth quarter. 22 points in the fourth quarter scored by these Titans, and they run away and hide with this game, 46-25. And, this is just a quick reminder, too, of how dynamic and explosive these Titans can be. This is like the 3rd or 4th time this season that they've scored 40+. So when they rev it up, they can score. This is a dangerous offense, and I don't think people really respect what the Titans are capable of doing when they've got it clicking on all cylinders offensively. When Corey Davis and A.J. Brown and all of those tight ends, Anthony Ferkser, or, any of those guys start to step up and they start making big plays, and Derrick Henry is running wild, they're capable, like they did against the Bills on a Tuesday night earlier this season, they're capable of revving it up and scoring a bunch of points. And they put a 40-burger on the Detroit Lions in this game as they win 46-25. They're 10-4 now. Are the Titans again tied atop the AFC South division, own the tiebreaker over the Indianapolis Colts because the Colts lost to the Jacksonville Jaguars in week 1. So by virtue of having a better divisional mark, the Titans are in the driver's seat in the AFC South. Meanwhile, the Lions are 5-9 and going to play the string out of this season and then be looking for a new general manager and head coach. Texans Colts, this was an identical game to the one that these two teams played 2 weeks ago when the Texans had a shot to win. You know, down 6 with the ball, first and goal from the Colts 8-yard line. You know, you get a bad snap, Watson fumbles it, the Colts recover and survive a scare. This was a similar game. You know, early on, you thought that they were going to run away and hide. They were up 14-0 in the first quarter, were the Indianapolis Colts. And I'm thinking, okay, they're going to destroy these guys today. And, you know, I talked about Watson and all the lack of weaponry that he has and, you know, who's going to catch the football and do this and do that. Well, I told you I didn't know if David Johnson was going to make a huge difference. I said, remember, he was out with COVID or it was like a family matter last week or whatever it was. And I'm like, I don't really know if he's going to make a difference or not, but he's playing this week. Well, David Johnson made a big difference in this game. Every time I looked up, he was throwing the football to David Johnson. And you know, you forget, I can't speak for you. I forget sometimes just how good of a receiver David Johnson was early in his career in Arizona. He was a 1,000, you know, type of guy where he could have 1,000 receiving, 1,000 rushing. And in any given season, he was that prolific of a pass catcher at times. And so, you know, you forget sometimes just how good, because he's so far removed, at least it feels that way, so far removed from having one of those types of seasons where he was viewed as the number one fantasy football guy, you know, just 3 years ago or so. Well, 11 catches, 106 yards for David Johnson in this football game. Deshaun Watson's a stud. You know, I don't think people, like, you know, it's funny. I had Washington fans talking to me about a hypothetical, you know, they're dreaming. Oh, would you give up 2 first-round picks for Deshaun Watson? I'm like, you don't really get it, do you? You don't understand how good Deshaun Watson is, do you? Like, the Texans aren't even entertaining phone calls on Deshaun Watson. You could call them and say, I got 7 first-round picks for you for Deshaun Watson, and they would still hang up the phone on you. They're not trading this guy. First of all, he's the reason anybody would even be remotely interested in the Texans GM or head coaching job. Only reason someone would be remotely interested in going to Houston is because of Deshaun Watson. You take him away, there is no, and they don't have a first round pick. It's not like you go, well, I'll trade Watson away and I'll get 2 first rounders and I'll draft a quarterback. You don't have a first round pick right now. And the team that you're trading him to, if they're giving you a first, they're probably not drafting in the top 5 or 10. So you're not going to be in a position to get another Deshaun Watson. You don't just get Deshaun Watsons. They don't just grow on trees. First of all, nobody even knew what he was going to be. Remember, the Texans traded up to number 10 to get him. He lasted till 10. Think about that for a second. Mahomes lasted till like 11 or 13 or whatever it was. Like, we didn't know how good these guys were going to be in that draft. That's why they lasted so long. So for us to sit here and even entertain the idea of them trading him is far-fetched and it's insane. He's not going anywhere, and he's playing, just in case you don't know, he's playing at an MVP-like level. But nobody's going to pay attention to him because they're 4-10. But make no mistake about it, 33 of 41 for 373 and 2 touchdowns. Listen to his targets, man. Listen to the guys. I just told you he went 33 of 41 for 373, 2 touchdowns and no interceptions against one of the better defenses in the league. Listen to who he's throwing the football to. All right. So Brandon Cooks played this week. He had 6 catches. How about Chad Henson? How about that? Ever heard of him? Probably not. Kiki QT. All right. Jordan Akins, his tight end. How about Kay Waring? Who is this? Kahale Waring, the tight end that we thought was going to be good like 5 years ago out of San Diego State that we haven't heard anything from? Who's P. Brown? Let's see who this is. Pharaoh Brown. He's throwing the football to Pharaoh Brown. Okay. Who is S. Phillips? Scotty Phillips. He's throwing the football to Scotty Phillips. Come on, man. Stop it. This guy's out here making a 5-course meal, not a 4-course meal. I don't even know if a 5-course meal exists with table scraps. You got to be kidding me. Anyway, he had these boys literally 11 yards away, 4th and 5. Throws it over the middle to Kiki QT, who gets the first down. Now, the Texans don't have any timeouts. So if he doesn't score, the game's over. He's rumbling, stumbling. He's bouncing off of Colt defenders. He gets all the way to the 3-yard line, gets crunched. Ball comes out, fumbles into the end zone. Colts recover, hold on for the victory, 27-20. And all I can say is wow. Wow. That Deshaun Watson even had these boys. And again, it's family business. But the fact that he even had these boys in this game, down 14-0 on the road against a defense like the one the Colts have this season, is amazing. Phillip Rivers, as I've mentioned, the Colts won't lose many games if Phillip Rivers is clean. If he doesn't turn it over and he plays consistent football, and Jonathan Taylor is playing his best football of the season. He's figured it out now. He's playing with the confidence that he had at Wisconsin. He's running physically. He's showcasing the speed. He's making guys miss. He's starting to play like a guy that should have been a first-round pick. And remember, I told you I thought he was the best back in this past year's draft. He's starting to play like it. Phillip Rivers, 22 of 28 for 228 and 2 touchdowns. A lot of 2s and a lot of 8s there, but at the end of the day, all they care about is the 7 that they won by in this game, which gets them to 10-4 on the season and keeps them in a virtual lock with the Tennessee Titans atop the AFC South division. Texans are now 4-10. And again, the worst part about being a Texans fan is that you're having a down season and you can't even reap the benefits of it because you don't have a first-round pick. Patriots, Dolphins. This is a game that I watched, and this Miami Dolphins team is scrappy, man. Man, are they scrappy. It was not pretty, but it was gritty, and most importantly, it was a dub. They started off very slow. Tua threw an ugly interception in the end zone to J.C. Jackson early in this ball game. The Patriots took a 6-0 lead to the halftime break, and you're thinking, oh my God, you're like, because I talked about this already. I said, those teams in that division, there's still this cloud of doubt that is cast over them anytime they play New England. Like, they're scarred. They should be. It was 20 years of terror, okay? So anytime the evil empire shows up, it's this big dark cloud that's cast over your sunlight. And you're like, man, it's the Patriots. like you start to lock up and guys start to make mistakes that they haven't been making. It's the Patriots. And early in the game, it felt like, oh my God, here they go. It's the Patriots. And then they finally snapped out of it in the third quarter. They made some plays. They were able to force some turnovers and do the things that we've seen them do all year long to help them win ball games. Salvon Ahmed, I love saying his name, Ahmed, was able to run all over this Patriots defense. And they had a nasty 1-2 punch between Ahmed and Matt Breida. Both of those guys ran the football effectively. Let's see how much they ran for. I'd like to think that they ran for over 200 yards in this football game. Let's see. Ahmed with 122 and Breida with 86. So that's over 200 yards right there. Plus you add in Patrick Laird, their fullback, with 20 yards. Tua had 9 yards, including 2 touchdown runs. One of them super impressive on a 3rd and goal from about the 6-yard line. And Lynn Bowden had a 9-yard run, and Malcolm Perry, their wide receiver out of Navy, the ex-quarterback, had a 4-yard run, 250 on the ground against the New England Patriots. That's how you get it done, man. That's impressive. Again, Tua 20 of 26, 145, 1 interception, no touchdowns. Not knock your socks off stats, but when you watch him manage the game, make smart decisions, the only thing he regrets is that throw in the red zone. He gets hit as he's throwing the football. It was a bad decision to begin with. Even if he doesn't get hit, I don't know where he's going with that football. The defender is right there, and then he gets hit, and it goes right to J.C. Jackson in the end zone. Missed an opportunity to at least come away with 3 in the red zone there. So, Tua continues to manage the game and give them opportunities to win. The defense, their 21st consecutive game with at least 1 turnover forced. They're a machine, and they almost had a scoop and score from about 83 yards out for Xavier Howard, except one of their defenders touched the football while out of bounds simultaneously, and so it made the ball dead at that spot. So the Patriots were able to salvage that possession and get a field goal instead of it being a scoop and score 87 or 83 yard touchdown the other way. So this team just continues to force turnovers, man. I'm so impressed with what they're able to do. And they rally in this game. This game, you know what this game felt like? It felt like the Patriots win in week 1 over these same Dolphins when they won the game 21-11. This was 22-12, 10-point difference in the game. Weird score, 21-11 the first time, 22-12 this time. The Patriots haven't scored a touchdown in now 9 straight quarters. They stink on offense, and they stink most notably because of one Cameron Newton, who was awful again in this game. 17 of 27 for 209 isn't terrible, but when you watch the game, you're like, he stinks. So does this offense. And I'm glad to see the Patriots stink. In any event, Dolphins, look, they're going to beat the Vegas Raiders, I think, next week. I thought they were going to lose that game if Derek Carr was healthy. They're going to win that game and get to 10-5. Their season is literally going to come down to week 17 and that matchup versus the Bills. Do the Bills need that for the number 2 seed or not? Is going to be the real question. And I guess the answer to that is, yeah, they should need that. No matter what happens, you've got to assume the Steelers are going to win tonight. And next week, the Bills would have to win just to get, and need the Steelers to lose against the Colts to then be tied with them. And then they need to win in week 17 to hold on to that tie. So week 17 is going to matter for Buffalo if they really want the 2 seed. And if you're Miami, you're going to need that game more likely than not to get into the postseason. So this AFC is crazy, man, because this Dolphins team, they deserve to go. I still would want to play them. I still think they're a fake tough guy, but they're good, man. Like, their defense is good. They don't beat themselves. They had a fake punt in this game that if their guy would have reported eligible, it was crazy. It's a thing of beauty. You caught the Patriots with their pants down. Your punter throws a gorgeous pass. And it's a long pass. Not like this was like a 5-yard. This was like a 25-yard pass to a guy with a 50-something number. And he goes up and makes a grab like he's a tight end. I mean, they're just well coached, man. If you ask me right now, who's the most well coached team in the league? I tell you it's the Miami Dolphins. They're just so well coached right now. Well, really disciplined football team. They get it done 22-12. They're 9-5, and they hold their outcome of their season in their hands. They went out. They're going to the postseason. And they deserve it. They really do. I just don't think they're going to make it. Bears, Vikings. This was a big one for me. This was one of the games that I told you was an eliminator in week 15. I told you this Bears team is playing. They're a different team. I do know what happened. They put Mitchell Trubisky in the goddamn game. That's what happened. But this is a different Bears team right now. They're 7-7. Winners of 2 straight. Easily could have been 3 had they held on against Detroit a couple of weeks ago. But here they are, 7-7, knocking on the door of the postseason. The Vikings now 6-8, lose this game 33-27 at home. This Bears team, they're just playing a different brand of football offensively. We've always known that this defense was fully capable. That was never the issue. Can they get enough points offensively to assist this defense to play complementary football? Well, Mitchell Trubisky, 15-21, 202, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. That interception was bad. It was in the end zone. You're up 3. You want to force the Vikings to need a touchdown to beat you, and he throws up a prayer ball in the back of the end zone, and it gets picked. And you're saying, Mitch, dude, don't do that. Don't do it. But he did. But he bounced back. David Montgomery was the real story of this game. 32 carries, 146 yards, 2 touchdowns. He went toe-to-toe with Dalvin Cook, who had 24 carries for $132 and a touchdown. So this was a fun one to watch. I really thoroughly enjoyed this football game. We get one of the classic sound bites from this game with Justin Jefferson on a hot mic after a pass late in the first half, in which Kirk Cousins was late getting him the football and ends up throwing it high and it's incomplete and he would add a touchdown. He gets up and screams, Kirk, come on, throw the damn ball. And this is why, and I tweeted this out, this is why I'm okay with no fans in the stands, because you don't understand how much stuff really goes on the field, what's really being said, until you hear some of these guys. And every week, in just about every game that I watch, I'm hearing somebody, barking out some F-bombs and, talking some shit. And you're just like, wow. And you catch a hot mic all the time. But now with the crowd not being there, you don't get that drowned out, And he's not, he's not expecting that to get picked up in a normal game. No one's going to hear him do that. But the cornerback, checking him, on the play. But yet everybody in the stadium and everybody at home heard him scream, Kirk, come on, throw the ball. So that'll be a classic. That'll never go away. But at the end of the day, it's like the creativity came back in the Bears offense, has come back these last couple of weeks. Guys are stepping up. And Mitchell Trubisky's playing with an abundance of confidence, and his legs are becoming a real thing. And I talked about that's what would save them. If he was smart, he would allow Mitchell Trubisky to be his quarterback, because Mitchell can run. 8 carries, 34 yards, and there were some impactful runs in there on some third downs that Mitchell was able to convert with his legs. So this Bears team is dangerous right now. On the flip side of that, the Vikings, every opportunity in this game to win, even late, they had a chance to go down and win this football game, and they couldn't do it. And they needed to get a stop. That was the problem. And this has been the problem all year. It's the defense. They had ample opportunities to get back in this game, and they needed a stop. And every time they needed a stop, the Bears would go down and get a field goal or go down and get a touchdown and extend the lead back out. And they just could never get to a point where they could fully catch up. Every time they had a chance, the defense would give it up, or the defense gets the interception and keeps it at a 3-point game at 30-27, and then the offense gives it right back. And then the Bears are able to get the field goal that they should have gotten on the possession before and run out most of the clock and win this thing 33-27. That was a big one for me, because I told you guys on Friday this was the difference maker. Everybody, all the sheets kind of looked the same. This was an easy week to pick games, but the big one was Chicago. Everybody thought Minnesota was going to win this game, and I said, man, I'm watching Chicago, and they look like a different team right now. Mitchell Trubisky's back in, and you know what it is. That's my guy. And Mitch is out here playing ball, and now the Bears are right back in the thick of things in the NFC wildcard chase at 7-7 with this big win on the road over the Minnesota Vikings, 33-27. The Minnesota Vikings, for all intents and purposes, have been eliminated from postseason contention at 6-8. They're not going to make the postseason, and the Bears now have a legitimate shot of doing exactly that with the win. Washington and Seattle. Boy, where do I begin with this one? 20-15 win for the Seahawks, who clinch a playoff berth with the victory, get to 10-4, and set up a massive matchup next week with the Rams for the division crown. We all assumed that would be a 10-4 versus 10-4 matchup. Now it's a 10-4 versus 9-5. But again, if the Rams were to win that game, they've already beaten Seattle once. They would own the season sweep at 10-5. And they would then be in the lead in that division. So they're not out of the woods yet, but this was a win, a big win for them. Cooled off a Washington team that had come into the game winners of 4 straight. And they got out to a quick start. They were up in this game 13-3 at half. They got the ball to open up the second half. and Carlos Hyde rips off a 50-yard touchdown run, and it's 20-3, and this game looks like it's over. The offense has really been, I won't say anemic. It wasn't what you would have hoped from the offense with Dwayne Haskins at quarterback, but he did move the offense a couple of times, but you had turnovers. You had 2 interceptions, that were backbreakers. Well, one in the first half, one in the second half that were absolute backbreakers. And you're thinking there's no way that they're coming back in this game, but they fought. They scratched, they clawed, and they got their way back into this game. And their field goal kicker missed an extra point, which then made them chase points after their second touchdown. Had he made the first extra point, then they would have just kicked the extra point. And then later in the game, when they got down inside the Seahawks 30-yard line with, a minute and 15 left and 2 timeouts, they would have been in a position to kick a field goal to tie the game up. Instead, they needed a touchdown because they failed on the 2-point conversion. And everyone wants to blame the kicker. And I don't have a problem with them blaming Dustin Hopkins. You need to make your extra points. That being said, let's not be 0 of 5 on 2-point conversions. Like, it's not 1998. Teams go for 2 all the time. I was watching the Eagles game yesterday, and the Eagles are 7 of 14. Now I get it. It's Doug Peterson, and I got something to say about his crazy ass. But the Eagles are 7 of 4. We're 7 of 14. They went for it on 2 last this week, and they didn't get it. They're now 7 of 15. But the Eagles were 7 of 14. 7 of 14, 50%. 14 attempts. We're 0 of now 5. You can't convert from 2 yards out. You don't deserve to win the game. So, Dwayne Haskins, 38 of 55. Wow, that's a lot of passes. 295, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, but he actually looked like Dwayne of last year that had Washington fans excited about the 2020 season, and less like the guy that we saw the first 4 weeks of the season that was just an abject disaster and an epic fail. So, there's this thought process of guys, a lot of fans wanting to see Haskins. If Alex Smith is healthy, he's already been named the starter if he's healthy. Ron Rivera said that's our guy. I agree with him. But, this was encouraging. If anything is to happen to Alex Smith, if this is the Haskins we're getting moving forward, then you feel like we can still win ball games. It isn't the end of the world if Alex Smith can't go. But the Seattle Seahawks, got to give them credit. They found a way to win. It wasn't pretty. Russell Wilson, again, not a great game from him statistically. 18 of 27 for 121 yards. Literally, not up until his last drive of the fourth quarter, this man didn't even have 100 yards passing. He had 99 yards passing and finally eclipsed 100 yards passing on the afternoon. 1 touchdown, 1 INT. So, not a great game statistically from him throwing the football, but they ran it on Washington to the tune of 181 yards rushing on the ground. So that's where their bread was buttered in this game. And that's where the game was really won, is their ability to run the football on Washington early and often. And they get out of Washington with a 20-15 win. They're 10-4 in the season. They're not even out of the discussion for the number 1 seed. Highly unlikely they'd have to win out, and they'd have to have Green Bay lose out to even have a shot at that. Not going to happen, by the way. So we'll see if Seattle can maybe work their way up to the number 2 seed. New Orleans is now 11-3, and they could lose another game or two. We'll see what happens with Seattle. More likely than not, they'll be your 3 seed if they can beat the Rams next week in a big NFC West showdown. Washington now 6-8, still leading the NFC East, but things are getting a lot tighter with the loss. And with all that said, a win next week versus Carolina, coupled with a Giants loss at Baltimore, and Washington locks up the NFC East at 7-8. So a lot still in front of Washington next week. Jacksonville at Baltimore. I'll make this one quick. Jaguars lose their 13th in a row, 40-14. A dominant performance from Lamar Jackson as he continues to come back from the COVID-19 list. 17 of 22 for 243, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. And early he got off to a rough start. He had the interception early in the game, but they were able to bounce back very quickly. They get a safety, and then it was all downhill from there in this game for Jacksonville. This thing, it was at one point, I think it was 40-7. It got ugly quick in this football game. But at the end of the day, the Ravens, I told you, they're going to win out. It's just a matter of can they get help with somebody beating the Dolphins or the Browns or even the Indianapolis Colts or the Tennessee Titans. I mean, it's crazy that we sit here and Tennessee or Indianapolis could end up on the wrong side of this thing if they don't win their division. They could go 11-5, 10-6 and end up on the wrong side of this thing, which is just insane. But that's the AFC this year, man, and you got to win enough games. That's what it all boils down to, is you got to find a way to win enough games. And I think the Baltimore Ravens are going to win 11. So if you want in, you're going to have to win at least 11, I think, this year in the AFC. And that's why I think the Dolphins are ultimately going to be the odd man out. But we will see. Ravens impressively destroy the Jacksonville Jaguars like they're supposed to, 40-14. They're now 9-5 on the season. Jaguars are now 1-13, but with the loss, they actually win because they are now the number 1 pick in the 2021 NFL draft. Why are they the number 1 pick? Because of this surprising result. We talked about this already at the top of the show, so I don't really need to get into this one too much. But the Jets surprise and upset, the biggest upset of the season. Let's see what this game went off as. 17-point favorites. This is by far and away the biggest upset of the season. The Jets were 17-point underdogs. Ouch. In this game, as the Rams fall 23-20 to the Jets. The Jets, like I said, they came out inspired football. Jared Goff, this is the thing. This is the thing that scares you with the Rams, is this offense is, one, they turn it over too much. Jared Goff, if you get to him, you can force him into some mistakes. And he did have an interception in that first half of this game. But, this is the thing. This offense of the Rams, I told you, it's missing something. And, I'm talking to my barber, my man King Coop. He's a massive Rams fan. He says, we need a number 1 wide receiver. And I'm like, I don't know if that's it or not, but you're missing something. I can't quite put my finger on it, but offensively, you don't scare anybody. And you saw it again in this game. Even the games they've won impressively, think about that Thursday night game against the Patriots. It was 24-3. They didn't beat them 34-3. They didn't beat them 40-3. 24-3. Remember they dominated the Bears that one night on Monday Night Football? What was that, 24-10? What was the score in that game? 26-10, something like it wasn't that impressive from a scoring standpoint. They don't score a bunch of points. And I told you this, and this further hammers home my point that I made to you last week and have been making to you for the last month or so, which is nobody in the NFC conference is untouchable. They've all got flaws, which makes it a wide open field, unlike the AFC where you feel like there are 2 or 3 teams that kind of stand above the rest. Credit the Jets, man. Everyone is just assuming that they're tanking and this, that, and the third. And they're 17-point dogs on the road. They get on a plane and they fly all the way out to the left coast to hand these boys a massive L. Nobody saw this coming. Frank Gore, it's amazing what Forever Frank has continued to do. And I remember him saying, he had a concussion a couple of weeks ago and he said, I don't want to go out like that. And I don't want to go out on an 0-16 team. Forever Frank played his ass off in this game. And, the 23 carries for 59 yards don't tell the story. But he had a big catch on a 3rd down to convert, to put this game on ice, to allow the Jets to get into the victory formation. He had a big touchdown run on a 4th down that I talked about when they went for it to start off the second half. He was huge in this game. Huge in this game. And the Jets get their first win of the season. If you're the Rams, you got to be sick to your stomach. Sean McVay said, after the game that he was flabbergasted, almost didn't know what to say. He was stunned, but he told his team, look, it is what it is. We got to move on. We got a massive game next week. But that one makes you sick to your stomach. You're supposed to be a Super Bowl contender and you go out and you do that. It's tough to stomach. Jets are now 1-13. They win, but they actually lose the number 1 pick. So now they're the 2 pick in the draft. Meanwhile, the Rams are 9-5. But look, everything they want is still in front of them. Believe it or not, even with this loss, they win next week. They sweep the Seahawks. They get to 10-5. They drag the Seahawks down to 10-5, and they would then be in possession of first place in the NFC West. And all they would have to do is win in Week 17 versus the Cardinals to secure that win of the division. Eagles Cardinals. To me, this was the best game of the day. I really enjoyed this game thoroughly from start to finish. I found myself rooting like I was an Arizona Cardinals fan. I got pissed off. I was tweeting about Kyler Murray and how he's soft, and he is. Kyler Murray is a baseball player in a football uniform. He does not want contact. That being said, man, is he good. I'm not talking about his talent. I'm talking about his toughness. He doesn't want to get hit at all. And, I don't like questioning guys' toughness when you talk about NFL players, because the fact that you are brave enough to put on those shoulder pads and that helmet is enough for me. We would talk about back in the day, Todd, Pinkston, and we used to call him Todd Stinkston, and how he used to alligator arm balls all the time. Because Todd Pinkston was like a $175 soaking wet, and he was going across the middle with guys like Sean Taylor and Roy Williams in the NFC East. Yeah, he was scared. He didn't want to get hit. Look, you won't get me to call people out for not being tough. But Kyler Murray, there is a certain level of toughness that is a requisite to play quarterback in this league. You've got to be willing to stand in the face of pressure, knowing you're going to take a shot and deliver the football. And he wants no smoke in the pocket. He sees somebody coming and he throws the old patented Eli Manning no-look pass. Now, Eli Manning, to his credit, played in a bunch of games in a row in this league. Why? Because of self-preservation. And so there is something to be said about self-preservation. Don't be a tough guy and end up being one of these guys like Ben Roethlisberger, who's always getting nicked, or Tony Romo, who is always was getting hurt. But in the pocket, you got to be able to stand tall and know that, all right, got a blitzing linebacker coming right at me, but I got an open receiver. I got to drill this thing in here. And I may take one. I may have to pay for this, but I got to make the play for my team. No, Kyler Murray rather throw a no-look interception in the end zone than, stand in the pocket tall and deliver the football. But all in all, I enjoyed this game thoroughly, and Murray was outstanding. Set a new career high in passing yards in this game, 27 of 36 for 406, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. It was a bad interception in the end zone too. But the real story of this game, we'll get back to Arizona in a second, is Jalen Hurts. Now, the numbers don't, wow you. You're damn near hovering around 50% completion percentage, 24-44, but for 338 and 3 touchdowns. And this guy, man, this guy's a baller. I'm just tell you right now, 11 carries for 63 yards. So, not quite the impact on the ground that he had a week ago against the Saints, but still an impact nonetheless on the ground. And I'm just going to tell you right now, every big play that was needed in this game, he made. And even down to the final 2 throws of the game, when the game was essentially on the line and they got themselves in a huge conundrum, with a sack and a penalty and all kinds of things. The 2 balls that he threw to Dallas Goedert to end this game on 3rd and forever and then 4th and forever, these are good balls. You're like, I was nervous as hell on both of them. The first one, all anybody wanted to talk about was Banjo, the safety. I'm like, what about Murphy? He knocked the damn ball away. Goddard was still going to catch the football, even with Banjo's hand in between man and ball. That was a hell of a throw. And then the second one, it was just as good of a throw. I'm like, he could have caught either one of those throws. There was a 4th down that he converted, on that possession to Fulgham. There was a 3rd down where he runs and he looks like he's going to get sacked. He gets away, and then there's a Dallas Goedert is out there and he does like a split but still catches the football. I'm like, this dude is making every big throw. He's making every play. All I could think of was all the people that had, bullshit to say about him coming out. Oh, is he going to try out for running back at the combine? And Eagles fans up in arms. Why are we drafting Jalen Hurts? Might have your quarterback of the future on the roster right here. But he can't throw. He can't do this. He can't do that. Only thing I know about Jalen Hurts is from time to time, he'll make the occasional mistake where you're just like, hey, don't do that, you know. But this guy's a baller, man. I mean, they had a chance to get their brains blown out, out in this game. They were down. He had a safety early in the game to Jalen Hurts. They were down 16-0, and then they rallied back and ended up making this thing a ball game at halftime. At 26-20. And he tied this thing up at 26. And at that point, I thought they were going to lose because Arizona had every opportunity to score. Kyler Murray throws an interception in the end zone. At worst, you got to come away with a field goal to push the lead out to 9 and make it a 2-score game. Instead, he throws just a really senseless interception there. He was missing guys because of pressure, and, the Eagles were just hanging around. I said, you're not going to let them steal this goddamn game, aren't you? But DeAndre Hopkins, that guy there, he's something else. 9 catches, 169 yards, 1 touchdown. That last drive, that touchdown drive, was all D-Hop. He has a catch and run underneath where he catches the ball, spins to the inside, the corner falls down, and then it's off to the races. It's just him and the safety, and he's turning him around, and he's in and out in him, and he's down after like a 40-yard gain, and then he finishes it off with a hell of a catch in one-on-one coverage. This was a whale of a ball game, man. Just back and forth. A hell of a game out in the desert. One that I'd watch 10 times over. But at the end of the day, I really needed Arizona to win. Arizona, don't piss me off. You got it done for me last week against the Giants. I need you to do it again. And they did. 33-26. Puts the Eagles in a really tough spot. They got to win out, and then they've got to have Washington lose out, including Week 17. They would be able to control that one because they play Washington in Week 17 in order to win the division. They've got Dallas this week, so they could eliminate Dallas next week. The loser of that game is eliminated, but I'm hoping that Washington wins and eliminates both of those teams anyway. So with the Washington win, both Dallas and Philadelphia are eliminated, and then the Giants themselves could be eliminated if they don't beat the Ravens. So this is a big one. They needed to win this game to keep their hopes alive. They're on life support now, but they are not dead. Just like Dallas isn't dead, neither are the Eagles, even though they lose this game. The Cardinals are now in the driver's seat. They really, really are in the driver's seat at 8-6 for that final wild card spot. With this win, this was a big one. They eliminated a bunch of teams with this win because they've got 6 losses, and a lot of teams have 8 losses or 9 losses, and they can't get back in. So they've put themselves in a really good spot, but they have to continue to win. It doesn't get much easier for them down the stretch. They've got the Rams in Week 17, but they've got the Niners next week. And so they've got to take care of the Niners. They've been turning it over a ton. You win that game, you put yourself in a really good spot. We'll see what happens. But the Cardinals, to me, they deserve to be in the postseason. They're the 7th best team in the NFC. They should be in, but going to have to continue to win. And then finally, Chiefs Saints. This was a hell of a football game. I don't know if this is a Super Bowl preview. I heard a lot of people saying that. But this game was excellent. 32-29 win for the Chiefs. Let me just start by saying this. I've never seen Patrick Mahomes hit the way he was hitting this game. He got his ass torn up in this game. I mean, he got crunched a number of times. There was one hit where I'm like, whoa. Never seen him hit like that before. And he's one of those pretty boys in this league that just doesn't get hit. He either slides or he runs out of bounds. He doesn't get hit a lot in the pocket because he usually gets rid of the football before pressure gets there, or he'll roll out and he'll throw it. And the officials are right there because he's the poster boy of this NFL. He's the poster child for the NFL. Like, that's their guy. So they're going to protect him at all costs. So you got to be careful when you get around Mahomes. And he was getting his ass torn up. And these were legal hits. Flags weren't thrown on these hits. So I was really impressed with New Orleans' ability to really pressure Patrick Mahomes in this game. Trey Hendrickson. And Granderson, these guys were all over the field. The defensive end, what is his damn name? It's gonna kill me if I can't. I'm gonna look it up real quick because it's gonna kill me if I can't remember his name. Cameron Jordan, he got ejected from this game for throwing a punch. He was out of pocket. He got in his feelings and he was going at it with another guy and he like two-pieced him. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? They need you. You can't do that. You can't lose your cool like that. He got ejected in this game, but this was a fun one. And the Saints defensively, really, early on they had Mahomes kind of scrambling around and doing some things. 26 of 47. When's the last time you seen Mahomes hovering around 50% completion percentage? Like, that doesn't happen often. For 254 and 3 touchdowns. Now, I will say there was a touchdown pass in this game to Mecole Hardman in the back of the end zone on a 3rd down, where you just go, Patrick, stop, bruh. Stop. No way. He's rolling out to his left. He's running out of real estate. The out of bounds is right there. He's about to get hit. A guy's bearing down on him, and he throws it in the corner of the end zone, the only place it could be, and there's so much traffic. He's got 2 of his own guys over there. There are 3 Saint defenders over there, and he puts it in the tight corner back pylon of the end zone, and you're like, oh, he's throwing this away. And here comes Mecole Hardman out of nowhere. Boop! Drags his feet, and you're like, it was one of those really shock and awe moments. Like, I was like, I went from, did he just do that? Yeah, it was the same face I made on that Thursday night against the Rams when Russell Wilson was rolling out to his left and threw it to Tyler Lockett in the back of the end zone. I'm like, no, he didn't mean to do that. I'm not giving Russ the credit for that. He didn't mean to do that shit. I know Mahomes meant to do this, and it was ridiculous. That being said, I talked about Mahomes getting his ass towed up. Breeze got his ass torn up too. Now, 15 of 34 for Drew Brees. So we're talking under 50% completion percentage. All right. For 234, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. Remember, no Michael Thomas in this game as well. But Clyde Edwards-Helaire sprained his ankle, severely sprained his ankle, and injured his hip in this game. They think he can be back for the postseason. We'll see. But the story of this game was the defense on both sides. I thought they were physical. They were fast. They made plays. This was a very, very entertaining football game. I'd like to see it again. I don't know if I want to see it again in the Super Bowl, but if you told me this was the Super Bowl, I wouldn't be mad at it. Demarcus Robinson had a stupid play right before the half. So Mecole Hardman, I told you it was a physical game. He takes a hellacious shot over the middle of the football field. I mean, just a perfect shot by the safety, squares him up right in his ribs. Bow! Mahomes left him out to dry. So he leaves the game, goes to the locker room early. And so with about 9 seconds left, the Saints have to punt. And so the Chiefs send back, because Mecole Hardman is normally their punt returner, but he's out right now. They send back Demarcus Robinson to field the punt. And he catches this thing like at the 10-yard line, and he's running backwards. I'm like, what are you doing, dude? It's halftime. Go down. What you think you're going to outrun? You're going to juke 15 guys? Go down. And he's got the ball out here like a loaf of bread, and he's making guys. He makes like 3 guys miss, and the 4th guy grabs him and hits him and knocks the ball out of his hands. It goes into the end zone, and and this is when I knew the Saints were going to lose. Just like Seattle in that Giants game a couple of weeks ago, had a chance to recover that fumble right before the half when they blocked the punt, and the clown can't recover it, and the ball squirts out. I told you, when the ball hits the ground and it's a fumble, guys lose their minds. You know, if that guy comes under control and picks that football up, it's a touchdown. He comes sliding in. Oh my God, I got to recover the fumble. And he comes sliding in at 1,010 miles per second. And the ball squirts out of bounds. And you're like, hey guy, don't do that. You know, but it should have been 7. You should have made the Chiefs pay for being stupid before the half. Instead, it's 2. The league had a season high 4 safeties on Sunday. This was one of the 4. At that point, I knew they were going to lose. They needed a touchdown there. In any event, this game looked like it was over at 29-15. And then you got a turnover by the Chiefs that opened the door. And the Saints took advantage, scored a touchdown, cut it to a 7-point lead. Then the Chiefs get the field goal by Butker to push it back out to 10. And then they score a touchdown. And I loved Jim Nantz trying to say Lil Jordan. He couldn't say Lil Jordan to save his life. First of all, I'm really disappointed. And I used to say this when he was at Texas. if his mother, and look, I'm not here to criticize anybody's mom name or anything, but I hope she didn't put that on his birth certificate. I hope that's just like a nickname. You know how we call guys by their nicknames and it just sticks, and that's not really their real name, you know? Like Debo Samuel, that like his name isn't Debo Samuel. We just call him that and it just stuck. And so everybody calls him Debo. I hope his name isn't really Lil Jordan. It really is probably Lil Jordan. Because who in the hell is going to allow themselves to be called Lil Jordan when they're 22 years old and they're 6'4", 225 pounds? But it was just fun hearing Jim Nantz, Little Jordan. He couldn't call him Lil. He tried his hardest to say Lil. He didn't have it. He didn't have it in him. It wasn't enough soul there. He's Little Jordan Humphrey. But he caught the touchdown, cut it to a 3-point game. And as you would know, the Chiefs were gonna convert on get a first down and end the game, and they did, and they won this thing, 32-29. That's a good game, really entertaining game. Chiefs are in the driver's seat for the number 1 seed in the AFC. It's 13-1. I just don't see how they don't get the number 1 seed. Meanwhile, a loss for the Saints that they were kind of banking on, 10-4. I don't think they're going to get the number 1 seed. I think this is all Packers. If they take care of business versus the Titans next week, the Packers are your number 1 seed in the NFC playoffs. So that's your Sunday slate. Browns take care of the Giants 20-6. We talked about that last night on overtime. So with that said, I do have a couple of super chats. I believe I saw a couple of super chats. So I do want to take those real quick. And here they are. This first one is from Kevin, the PRF. Thank you for the super chat. Kevin, the PRF, greatly appreciate you, who writes, don't believe in organizations tanking, but individual coaches and players, yes. Players looking like they're in the Pro Bowl late in the season, coaches looking like F it. Zorn comes to mind first. So here's the thing with that. This isn't a tanking situation. When you see players doing that, they just don't care. It has nothing to do with them thinking, I want to lose on purpose. That's the concept surrounding tanking, is that you're doing this for the benefit of draft positioning. That's the whole premise of tanking, is that you're losing intentionally for the purposes of gaining better draft positioning. That's not what those players that you see doing that in seasons. When the team is bad, like Jamal Adams, when they made the playoffs yesterday, when they clinched, he stepped up to the podium, and the first question he was asked was, how does it feel? And he cut the guy off, and he was so excited. And he talked about, at this point in the season, I'm thinking about, how am I going to get my cars home? Where am I going on vacation? How am I going to get all my shit out of my locker and get it? He literally laid out what it's like to be on a losing team every year. Where your mind shifts after week 13 when you know, all right, another failed season. It's over. We're going home. He's thinking about, how am I'm going to get my 3 cars home? Where am I going to vacation at? Where am I trying to take the family when this is all over with? Like, he's not thinking about football. He's not locked in. And that's what guys are doing at the end of bad seasons. It's not a matter of, well, I want to tank because I want us to get a better quarterback. I want us to get the number. They're not thinking about that shit. Those players are thinking, man, I don't give a shit. I'm ready to have this season over with. We stink. I don't want to be here anymore. So and coaches, they can't afford to tank. I remember, the running joke was in the NBA, Sam Hinkie was he was the creator of Trust the Process in Philadelphia. And he was this guy that had this master plan of getting all these picks and putting the Philadelphia 76ers in a great position to rise from the ashes and become one of the best teams in the NBA. And he did a hell of a job of putting them in that position. But guess what? When it came time for them to actually become good, he wasn't around anymore because they were so bad, they fired him. So you can't ever put yourself in a position as a coach where the organization doesn't play well. The first person they're going to blame is the head coach. First guy that's going to get the blame is the head coach. Some of that may bleed down to, bleed over to the GM, especially if you hired that guy. But the first guy they're going to look at is the head coach. So you can't afford to go 3-13 2 years in a row. You can get fired. So coaches are never trying to, lose games on purpose. It's never beneficial for them. Emperor, and you gotta remember, Zorn, they tried to make him quit. They hired the bingo caller and, all of the shenanigans and tomfoolery that they put that man through. And, remember, at the end of that season, he was using technical jargon like comply. Like, he was just trying to get his checks. They wanted him to quit. They tried to embarrass him. He was like, I ain't quitting. Y'all gonna pay me my damn money. So he could care less what was going on at that point. Emperor Meech, thank you for doubling up. Double up. Emperor Meech, greatly appreciate you. Who writes, you know how I feel about Jones and Gettleman, but the fact you dudes gave us 2 wins I didn't want infuriates me. Anyway, continue on with the show. Hey, we did that on purpose, bruh. We know you're trying to get rid of Gettleman, and we here in the NFC East have said all along, protect Gettleman at all costs. Somebody had to give you some wins in the division. Somebody had to give you a chance to win. I think we've done enough to keep Dave Gettleman here for at least another year. What about you? That Leonard Williams trade looking really good. That Jabril Peppers trade looking really good. Hey, James Bradbury and the signing of Blake Martinez looking really good, man. Hey, Gettleman, yeah. I think he's going to be back, man. I think we've done enough to bring him back for 2021. I love it. Want more of it. So with that said, let's move on to garbage time. So I don't have much on this one. I'm going to make this short and sweet. Steelers are playing the Bengals. The Bengals, I think they're the worst team in football right now because their offense is just that bad. So when I look at them, I don't see how this is close. Even if the Steelers are struggling on offense like they have been the last couple of weeks, I still don't see how this is a close game. I can't see the Bengals scoring any more than 10 points. I think they might only score 7. It wouldn't shock me if they only scored 3 against this Steelers defense. I expect this to be 27-10, 27-6, 27-3, something along those lines. I still don't think Pittsburgh is a dynamic offense, so I don't think this is going to get to 37-10 or anything like that. But I mean, if Cincinnati does what they did against Dallas and they want to turn it over 4 times and fumble the game away, sure, this thing could get out of control and the Steelers could score 37 or 40. But if they just punt the football when they're supposed to punt and do the things that they've done, for much of the season, this thing will be 27-3 or something like that. They're not a good football team right now. And Zach Taylor probably going to get fired at the end of the season with the way they're playing right now. We'll see. I can tell you this. The Steelers desperately needed this game. It's a get-right game. It's a game to get them back on track. And I think they're going to take full advantage of this opportunity. They're going to win this game very easily and end their 2-game skid and see if they can't right the ship down the stretch. They got a massive game next week against the Indianapolis Colts. So that's going to do it for me, your man Louie T. I thank you guys for joining me. Can't stress that enough. Again, no more pods for the remainder of the week. I hope that you and yours have a beautiful, very happy, and merry Christmas. We will reconvene here on the pod on Monday where we'll break it all down, catch up on any of the news that we may have missed while I was away on the podcast. But I hope you enjoy the football. You'll get 4 straight days of football: Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday next week. No more Thursday night games. The last Thursday night game was on last Thursday. So no Thursday night football this week. So really looking forward to that extra time that we'll be getting back on our Thursdays now. But in any event, you guys enjoy the rest of your day. If you're a Washington fan, you'll have some content later on. And, I'll be back on a Monday night overtime. Again, it's not going to be an enjoyable game, I don't think. But we will see. Every time I say that we end up getting a good game, I don't think we're getting a good game here. I would bet any amount of money that we're not getting a good game in this one. So I'll tell you this. If you haven't already done so, what are you waiting on? Subscribe to the Louie Tee Network for more great content. Turn on that notification bell so you don't miss a thing. And also hit that like button if you haven't already done that, okay? We're up to 46 likes. There are over 100 of you out there. Get this thing to 50, maybe even a 60 on your way out. Hit that like button and bless the kid if you would so kindly. It is the holiday season, so if you could spare me a like, man. Hit me a like. All right. With that said, I am going to glide to the side and allow you to enjoy the rest of your afternoon. I am starving. I am going to get me some leftovers from the kitchen. I will see you guys a little bit later on. You guys take care. Have a good one. Louie Tee